Okay, so this client here, you guys can see the screen. So I remember when this lead came in, because our ISA, I think our ISA Michael, somehow like he was on the lead when it first came in, and like some of the auto texts went out.
Mm-hmm.
And then she sent over a questionnaire to him. And then that's when I got you involved. But these are the questions right here that she had asked, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's look at the email, right? Hello, Michael. My name is, I'm currently considering selling my condo. Having lived in the unit for years, I'm debating whether to remodel before listing. Personally, I feel some updates such as carpet replacement, painting kitchen cabinets, etc. I'm looking for a real estate agent that not only provides expert selling services, but also supports or manages remodeling. And then the questions: is it a good time to sell? The average number of days in the same type of home, listing commission rate, buyer commission rate, how to handle it, what is the total, including escrow title, would it be? I don't want any hidden fees. How often do you get inquiries in my area in the last couple of years? Will you take professional photos? Thank you very much, basically. So she was trying to get all the answers, right? Like before she even spoke to you. And so I like the way you responded, because I think you tried to call,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
you finally responded to the email before you guys jumped on a call.
Yes.
Okay. So I think this was very good how Blanca responded, basically, right? She addressed the questions, but then she also sold herself in the email, right? And so that's important, right? So thank you for your patience as we discuss your plans for selling your condo. Did you write this or did you chat GPT this?
No, I wrote it and then I chat GPT'd on some of the what I wrote, and then it kind of fine-tuned it a little bit. So it was a little bit of back and forth.
Okay, perfect. That's probably what I recommend you do.
Yeah.
Is you take all your ideas, write it like you would write it, and then say,
Yeah.
chat GPT, help me formalize this or help me make it into an easy to read email.
Yeah.
And now it kind of makes you even better on that
And
side.
then I also deleted some stuff. So definitely I didn't just copy and paste. I added and removed some stuff from ChatGPT too.
Yep. So thank you for your patience as we discuss your plans for selling your condo. I appreciate you sending over your questions. I'm excited to provide you with info. A bit about my background. I encourage you to visit my recent client testimonial reviews. I've been in business for 21 years, native in San Jose, very well informed in the areas, full-time agent, very in tune with the market, assisting clients in the sale and purchase is my passion. Here are some updates to your questions. When we meet, we can go in more detail on your specific location and market, right? So gave the client, kind of what she wanted, but then also preface that, hey, when we meet, we're going to go over this stuff in detail, which is crucial, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it a good time to sell? Currently, the market is showing strong demand for properties like yours, which could work in your favor. That's a very good answer because it didn't say really yes or no.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It just says currently the market is that could be in your favor, right?
Yeah. Because I think ChatGPT had said that there was a lot of inventory and all this stuff because I did the zip code as well. So that's kind of where it was like adding and removing.
Yeah. And so you got to remember with a question like this is kind of the filter before they even decide if they want to talk to you, right? So you got to be strategic on how you answer that question in an email if you still hadn't had a chance to talk to her in person, right? Or over the phone. Because if you say something wrong in the email, she may not want to talk to you after that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So just understanding that you got to be strategic in how you answer it. So it's neither like good or bad. It's positive as much as possible. And then now that sets you up for the call, right?
Yeah.
Average days on market for similar homes, condos in 95136 are averaging 30 to 45 days on the market, depending on condition or price. That's a very neutral answer. Listing commission rate. You didn't give your commission rate. I tailor the commission to the client's needs based on the level of services and needed in products, right? So I like how you did that, right? Because if you would have said something that was too high or too low, that could have disqualified from even having her want to talk to you, right? Yeah. So that was very, very, very good tactic you did. Buyer commission rate. That one we can talk about because it's pretty, there's standards already that we typically see.
Yeah.
As of August 24, buyers' commissions have commissions set with the realtor for representation. We will know more on the buyer agent commission once offers are received. They may be negotiated depending on strength of the offer. Example, terms, pricing, and closing period. The percentage I've seen negotiated is about 2.5. However, it can be negotiated. Total costs, I can provide you with a detailed breakdown, including title, escrow. I would also like to know your mortgage balance. The net sheet will be very detailed for you to review. Inquiries in your area over the past couple of years, we've seen a steady increase in buyer inquiries with many actively looking for properties like yours. Professional photos, yes, I always conduct professional photos. I'm attaching one of my homes that I recently sold. And then you said there's a lot more detail I'd love to share with you. My consultation is completely free, no commitment required. If you are happy with what you hear and numbers look good, then you can make the decision to take next steps. If not, not a problem at all. When is a good time for a consultation? Right? So what I like here is that you sold yourself in the beginning, right? You pumped yourself up, right? Which you showcased, you know, what makes you great. You gave her clear answers that were not really, you know, mostly in positive, right? Not really something that could be perceived as negative. And then you also gave the value of why you would want to meet, because there's a lot more detail we're going to go over, and you'll get a lot more of that through the consultation. You highlighted that it was free, no commitment required. If you're happy, you can decide. If not, no problem at all. So you kind of made it like not a big deal, right? And then you closed. This was a perfect close. When is a good time for a consultation? Right? You didn't leave it up in the air. It was like, now you're moving to, okay, when can we meet? Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a great sales skill right there of just moving it to the next step in the process, right?
Yeah.
Any feedback on what happened next with this? Or Deb, you had a question? What was your question, Deb?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I'm not sure. I mean, if there is a pretty straightforward answer to this, I'm asking this because I mean, still pretty new to this, right? Is it a good idea to provide a range for your listing rate? For example, we have the 3 packages, right? So can we provide like a range from X% to X%? So just so that the client has something to bite on. I mean, that's just my personality. I normally do that, right? But is that something that you should not do?
I can give some feedback on that.
Yeah.
I don't like to do that, Dev, because there's a lot of discount brokers out there.
Okay.
And there's a lot of discount brokers who will take a listing for 1%. And if you give a range, let's just say your range is 2 to 5%.
Sure.
You're already higher than the discount broker.
You're disqualifying yourself.
You're already giving them the perception that you're going to charge more than what they've seen online or met with somebody. She had already met with 4 agents prior to me.
Oh, wow.
And I feel that when you the value that I feel that we give our clients who want to list their home is, we're not in the box brokerage. We're going to tailor it to your needs. And what is the need? They want to maximize the exposure. So obviously you're going to guide them in the right product.
Correct.
Now, if you go to a home that's immaculate and there's really nothing to be done as far as staging, then of course there's a little bit of a room for you to negotiate on your commission. That's kind of
no. I understand what you're saying, Blanca. It's like it's kind of like you don't want to provide anything that will just disqualify you. Kind of going back to the earlier point, right? So it's a good kind of good way of looking at it that I kind of didn't consider. So I appreciate the feedback. Thank you.
So you also got to remember, right, is the whole point of this email was to book the appointment, right? So strategically, you only want to say so much to get your foot in the door.
Yep.
You don't want to give everything on the email, because if you give too much on the email, and then they're like, okay, well, what do I need to meet with you for? I already know what you're all about, right? So she gave enough that kept the conversation open and enticing for this client to want to meet, right? And so that's a strategy, a sales strategy. Now, there's only a couple of things that can disqualify you from someone wanting to meet with you. It's 2 things really from when it comes to sellers, right? One of them is you talk about commission on the phone before you have a chance to really meet with them and sit down and show them your value, or you talk about the price of their home, right? So you always want to not talk about those you always want to keep that for the appointment, because just like Blanca said with the commission, right? If you say, hey, we charge between 2 to 4, but they saw Redfin's charging 1, they may not want to meet with you at that point. But then once Blanca meets her, and then Blanca shows all the value and her personality and everything she does and her reviews, now it's like, okay, I can see why you charge between 2 and 4, right? Now you can justify it. The other thing is with price. If someone asks you, hey, well, what do you think my home could sell for? You don't want to ever like pinpoint a price because you haven't looked at the property. Right? You always want to say, hey, look, at me just throwing you a price right now would be as good as you just going on Zillow and looking at this estimate, right? In order for me to accurately give you a price, I would need to see the home. I would need to study the market a little bit. I need to see how your home compares to other homes. It's like going to the doctor, and just saying, hey, I have a headache, and they just, here, get surgery. And you're like, wait a minute, how do you know I need surgery? So you got to consult them first. So you never want to talk about price. You always want to say, hey, that's a great question. We'll talk about that on the appointment, and it'll be a lot more accurate once we get to meet. And commission, hey, that's a great question. I tailor it to your needs. And so when we meet, we'll go over several options, and we'll come up with one that you're comfortable with, right? And 9 times out of 10, they'll be like, okay, that sounds fair. Let's go ahead and meet.
Fair enough.
Yeah, fair enough, right?
I gotcha. Thank you so much, Enrique. Very helpful.
Yeah, no problem. Blanca, can you tell me anything else about like what happened next after this?
Yeah. So then I booked the appointment and ran my comps, ran a net sheet for her, and brought my marketing material and got to the appointment and just went through the listing presentation. First, I just kind of gathered why she's selling. Why is she looking to sell? She's moving to Vegas. She wants to retire soon, and a lot of her friends have moved to Vegas and are in a more cost-effective environment. So that's the motivation to sell. She also wanted some advice on her home. We talked about the home and referenced some of the listings that I have sold and what we did and all that good stuff. And then I also asked her if she took some time to see my reviews, and she said, yes, I did. And that was one of the reasons why I called you, because I noticed some of the sellers were very happy with your service. I just kept it very real and very connected, and I never really had to push for her I never had to close her. And I could have closed her and put a little pressure, but I didn't feel it was necessary because I felt like I gave a lot of value. And then I said, I did bring the listing agreement with me. I would love to go over it with you. And if the numbers make sense, this would be the next step for you to sign the listing agreement. We can start the timeline. And I told her what the next steps would be. She said, all the information was great. I just need I just need a little bit to review. I said, okay. And then she told me that she was going to interview possibly another agent. And I said, can you give me some feedback? I know you've already interviewed 4 agents. Can you give me some feedback how I'm looking? She goes, right away. She goes, you're great. She goes, you're very detailed. Everything's very well explained. I really like you. You gave me some great advice. Everybody has different advice on what I should do. And I feel like your advice is more in tune what I have in mind that I need to do. So it kind of connected in that sense. And then I think also the fact that I told her that I'm very familiar with the markets and that I'm a full-time agent and that I have a team also that does a lot of the help, because she's going to be leaving out of the country and she's going to give us access to the property while she's gone for us to do all this. She felt comfortable to trust me with that process.
Got it.
And it just went well. And then I said, okay, is it okay for me to follow up with you tomorrow? And she said, let me review everything and I'll give you a call. I said, okay, fair enough. We'll do that. And then I still sent her a text thanking her for the appointment. And it was very nice meeting her. And she didn't respond. So when she didn't respond, I thought, oh man, maybe it's not going to happen. But then the next morning is when she sent me the text that she was ready to move forward.
Got it. Good stuff. Let's look at a couple steps here because I want to point these out, right? So she sends the email answering her questions, and then you must have gotten in touch with her because now I see the appointment was booked, right? So listing consultation set. You did that in follow-up, boss. You included her, right? All that good stuff. The title also important. Listing consultation, right? You always want to make sure because they're going to see that when they get the notifications. You put a nice little note in there. Hey, I'm excited to see you, right? Should anything change, have a wonderful weekend, right? So right off the bat, you're already showing like your level of detail and attention, right? Then you sent the email confirmation, right?
Yeah.
Which is a template that we have before you go out to a listing. This is the email template we have. If you go to templates, it's in there. And basically what it is, it just tells you, hey, I'm excited to meet with you. Hey, before we meet, here's some links to check us out. So this is like a pre-listing email template. Here's our website. Here's our Zillow profile. Here's a couple client testimonial videos, right? And then it basically, hey, there's a bunch of factors that are involved, but this is, the focus, right? Marketing, pricing strategy, knowing your options, getting the best result. So this right here, I feel like we've been doing this for so long, right? Like we've been sending this email for like probably 8 to 10 years already, but some of our agents don't know to send this email. So if you're not sending this email out before every appointment, you're putting yourself at a disadvantage. So use this email because now it'll take you to the reviews and all that good stuff. Then you did a confirmation, a text. Excited to meet with you tomorrow, confirming our appointment, right? So you confirmed the appointment, which was the day before.
Yeah.
Right? So how many of us are texting our client the day before to confirm the appointment? Right. Sometimes we're not. Then the system texts her the morning of as a reminder as well, right? And then you met with her, and then you sent a follow-up email after the appointment, right? Which kind of outlined, hey, it was great talking to you, blah, blah, blah. Here's a net sheet, right? Here's my listing presentation. Here's a net sheet. Then you sent her the listing agreement a couple of days later, and then now you signed the listing. Right?
When I sent her the listing agreement, I sent her a text and I said, hey, I just sent the listing agreement. Let me know if you have a few minutes so we can review it together.
There you go.
And then we got on the phone and I broke down the listing agreement to her.
Oh, okay. So that's even another step there.
Yeah. And then once we did that, she said, okay, thank you so much. This was helpful because I did have some questions. And before I didn't even ask her, what are your questions? I just said, I just wanted to go over the listing agreement because I know it's a lot of verbiage and it gets a little confusing. So let me just break it down and summarize it for you. And we went through it. And then she said, this is perfect because you answered the questions I had. She goes, okay, let me just finish reviewing and then I'll go ahead and acknowledge it.
Okay, there you go. Now once you got the listing and once you get the listing signed.
Yesterday.
Okay, so check this out, right? So yesterday, which was the 30th. So she got the listing signed yesterday, and already yesterday at last night, 9/17, you already sent in the canned response. Right? I sometimes see some of our agents are taking 3-4 days to send the canned response, and then now your file is just sitting. So she got the listing signed and then immediately sent in the canned response. Very thorough, very detailed, filled everything out, put some notes here, right? And then now we get to move forward with starting with this listing right here, right? And so, what do you guys see, guys? What's the overarching thing that you see with how Blanca is handling this?
Very detailed. Very, very detailed. When her and I did Trestle together, the amount of detail was beyond anything I've ever done. And you can always learn. And I learned a lot. Even though I've been doing this for fucking ever. I mean, So no, that on that email template, just kind of switch a little bit. Is there an email template for that she sent out for the seller? Is there a buyer one that we can send out before the buyer consultation too?
Yep. Let me reshare this real quick. Great question.
I did not. know there was a seller or buyer. So it's good to know.
So yeah, so if you go to email, templates, and then you just say buyer appointment. I'm sorry, let me see. I think they're called pre-buyer consult email,
Okay.
pre-listing appointment email.
Okay. Awesome.
So the pre-buyer consult email is basically really similar, right? Hey, can't tell you how excited I am to meet with you on this time and date. Here's the location, or here's the Zoom link. You know, I'm confident we're going to do the best job. There's a lot of factors, but here's what we're going to cover in our meeting: pre-approval, the escrow and closing, the market overview, strategic offer prep, you know, access to upcoming listings. And before we get together, please take a look at our website. Please take a look at our reviews.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, cool.
Mhm.
And that's basically it, right? The whole premise of the email is like, hey, I'm excited to meet with you. This is what we're going to cover, because you're reiterating the value proposition of why they need to still meet with you, right? If it's just like, hey, I'm excited to meet with you for a buyer consult, we know what a buyer consult is, but the client doesn't necessarily know all the value they're going to get from the buyer consult. So this is where you got to be detailed and put in, these are the 4 or 5 bullet points that we're going to cover, and this is why it's important to you, all right? And then you're backing it up with proof. Hey, here's our website, here's our reviews. And so if I see that, and I was, you know, second guessing on attending the appointment or not, but now I see like, hey, he's going to go over all this stuff, and this is why it's important to me, I'm more likely to want to meet and continue that appointment, right? And so absolutely, I would use this template, and then you can obviously edit it and tweak it and make it apply to your meeting there, right? Any other
Thank you.
questions? Any other questions on this? Okay. I want to open it up right now to just any other questions or thoughts, or you know, things that you feel you need coaching on right now to get your business to the next level. Now's not the time to go over like just basic stuff, how to use follow-up boss, stuff like that. I think, you know, you guys are past that. Something I guess I have. Do you have a question, Amanda?
Sorry. Oh, yeah, one quick one. On the listing strategy, how did Blanca, or generally, how do you approach on 2 questions? Like, one is how do we ask seller what is the backup plan? Let's say things don't go as per plan, right? Market changes or whatever. So what is the backup plan seller has? And second, I think Blanca already asked her, like, what is the motivation for sale is she's moving out. But yeah, I want to make sure, like, I understand how to ask that question to seller in a positive way, not show that we are not confident of selling your home, but just to make sure we are asking them right question.
Do you even ask that, Blanca? Like,
I did not. I did not ask that, but when we talked about the easy exit agreement on the listing presentation, and we talked about the items she would have to cover, like third-party expenses, she said, so if I decide that I decide that I'm not going to sell, this is when I would have to pay this. And then that's when I kind of said, what would be a decision? What would be a factor that would make you not want to sell? She says, maybe I decide that I don't want to sell because I want to hold on to it for renting. I said, before we put it on the market, I encourage you to visit Zillow, which is a very popular site, to see what the market rentals are going for. And then we talked about a little bit about being a landlord, because she's moving out of the area, the pros and the cons. And she said, no, my goal is just really to sell, but I was just wondering what it was. So there really not necessarily is what if it doesn't sell, and I don't really ask it. It was more referencing the question on the easy exit agreement. If I decided not to sell, and then that's when I said, what would be a reason for you not to sell?
Got it.
Yeah, but I never really positioned that.
Okay.
Yeah, like a backup plan.
I think the key, guys, is you want to just keep an open communication, right? With in conversation with that client, right? Hey, you're selling. It's a big move. Tell me why you're selling. What's gotten you to this point? And I've seen Blanca do it because I've gone on presentations with her. You know, you went on another listing presentation yesterday, right?
Yes. Yes.
And so, like, what was that conversation like? Like, how do you start that conversation of getting into why they're selling?
Yeah, that one was really good. Well, this is how I start them all. I said, hey, my goal today is to understand why you're wanting to sell your home. And then we're going to go from there. That's how I lead into the presentation. Hey, my goal is just to fully understand why you want to sell your home. And yesterday when I met with this family, it's a completely different scenario, but that's how I started the conversation. I introduced myself. They were in the middle of a breakfast with the mom, so I didn't ask for the tour at that moment, but I did say, hey, before I leave, I definitely want to tour the property and walk it with you guys. But let's, just kind of sit down. So tell me a little bit about what's triggering the sale of the home. And everybody's going to have a different reason. This client is moving to Vegas. The other clients, it's their mom is elderly, so they're looking to find a different placement for their mom, and use the proceeds from the sale to cover some of these costs that they're going to be encountering.
Yeah, what's your question?
No, I mean, I just have something to add. I remember Rob used to have this really cool way of doing this, and I always stole this from him. He almost said it in a joking manner. It's like, you live in a phenomenal area, and he almost kind of laughed. And then he just stayed quiet, right? And I mean, the implication was almost like, hey, you live in such a great neighborhood. Why even move in the first place?
Yeah.
And if you say it in the right kind of tone and manner, which I mean, I've used that one all the time, Enrique. It's they almost want to tell you the motivation in such a lighthearted manner that it's not even a big deal. It really like calms down the tone of the conversation. If you're asking them with like such a kind of formal way, like, hey, why do you want to move? Or like if you make it all kind of tense, the aura is a lot more different. So I feel like Rob's like simple one-liner there is really, I mean, if you can pull it off, it works all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you're doing is trying to get them to sell you on why they want to sell their home,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm. And clients can sense that, guys, when you're genuinely trying to find out what is the motivator, why are they wanting to sell, how can I help you accomplish that goal? And then I summaried after they went over everything and told me. I said, okay, so if I'm understanding you guys correctly, it looks like we don't have a timeline just quite yet, but the most important is finding a place for mom. Yes, that's correct. Okay, great. So when that happens, then this is what we will do.
Yeah. And so that's a great technique right there too, is after they've told you everything, then you're repeating it back to them.
Yep.
Hey, so what I'm hearing or what I'm understanding is A, B, and C.
Yes.
Is that correct? What does that do? What does that do right there for the relationship? Shri, what does that do?
It creates like a lot of trust, and and they're just saying that everyone is on the same page. She's really getting what they're saying, right? So that creates a lot of trust, actually.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. And what's the biggest, we've talked about this before, when you're trying to close listings, the biggest factor or component of closing a list or getting a listing signed is trust. Trust has to be built, right? The marketing and the fees and all that stuff is a lot smaller than you think.
Yeah.
It's the trust and the comfortability. Do they feel comfortable with you? Do they trust you? Do they sense that you understand what they're trying to do? And do they sense that you're trying to advise them as best as possible, right? And the way you do that is by listening, right?
Yeah. On that appointment that I went on yesterday, guys, when I first arrived, it was a handshake with the two sisters and introductions. And then when I left, when I was getting ready to leave and say bye to them, they both hugged me. So that immediately, but that didn't happen like immediately, right? It was like an hour and a half presentation and just connecting and talking, and also confirming what is important for them is also important for me, right? And I'm going to be the vehicle to help you accomplish that goal or get to where you guys need to be. So it was very different by the time I left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes for some of us, we're not comfortable doing that, right? Because it's a stranger. But I think what you got to remember is we're in a relationship type of business. So your job is to just be a human, right? Be a human as much as possible.
Yeah.
We're not a sales, like a closer or anything like that. I mean, there's people who that's their style. I don't think that's the best style, in my opinion. I think when you can just relate to people one-on-one and let them know, like, hey, I hear you, I understand you, I see where you're at, I see what your pain points are. This is how I think I can help you. And you're very honest and upfront, even if it's not what they want to hear.
Yeah.
But it's what you think they need to hear. And you reiterate like, hey, I know this is not what you want to hear, but this is what I advise you to do.
Yeah.
They know you're being genuine, and then the trust is built further, right? But it requires you to do a lot of listening and reconfirming and, you know, just making sure you guys understand each other, right? And that's something I think Blanca is great at. Okay. What else? When it came time to explain the commissions, did you just follow the listing presentation as it is and just kind of go through the things, or what's your technique?
Yeah. So I start with, you know, the packages, the silver, the gold, and the platinum. And I explain it, and then I say the gold, and then I say the platinum. And then I said, my recommendation for the condition of your home and for the needs that we've discussed and what we think we should do on the home, I recommend the gold, for example. Or if there's going to be a lot more, then I recommend the platinum. But it's usually between the gold and the platinum. I haven't had to do the silver because most properties that I've gone on require the other services, but I go through all three and then I give my recommendation, and then I reference which package I used on my previous listings.
Yeah. There you go. Right. So when you're showing them like an example, hey, this is a listing I just sold. This is what we did. This was this package, right? This was the result that we got. Yeah, definitely. I think having examples, guys, is really important as well, right? When you can show them, even if it's not your own listing, like, remember, you may not have a listing example, but Blanca, and you can pull up Blanca's listing and say, hey, this is one we just did.
Yeah.
Right? Our team, right? They don't know if it's yours or whoever's it is, but use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Questions, guys. What else you got? I think this is we're on a good roll right here of things that are going to make you just better agents, able to connect with people better. Is there any questions you guys have for Blanca about that process there?
Blanca, did it ever ask you that, hey, if you have any present listings, like we want to come and see like how you do the staging, or, you know, how do you host the open houses or something like that, how to answer that?
I have never had them ask me to physically see a listing, because I reference the listings and I tell them what we did and the photography, and I even share the link to them prior on their phones. And then I always bring like the open house. Yeah. And when I did that on both listing appointments, they said, oh, I said, see this little flyer here? We will canvass the neighborhood. We will door knock. Not a lot of teams in the area do this. They just take your listing and it just kind of markets itself. I said, but we take it a step further. We'll invite your neighbors. And why do we invite your neighbors? I give them an explanation, because a lot of people don't know why we're doing this. And I say, the reason we do this is to expose your property. Plus, they probably have family, friends, coworkers, maybe somebody looking to move into this neighborhood. And they're going to be, now it's in their radar. Hey, we just have a listing that popped up in our neighborhood and you should come by and see it. We just got invited to the open house. And the sellers right away go, that's a great idea. I go, yes, because they live here. They know what the neighborhood's like. Maybe they have family and friends they want to live close by. So I really just give the example of everything we do. And I feel like the door knocking is a powerful one. And then I always also reference that we have such a young team that is very active on social media with Reels, Instagram, Facebook. And then I still always chime in and give my weakness. I'm the older mom of the office, and I'm getting into it. I'm a lot better. I'm doing a lot more. But by what I want to share is that by them sharing this, it goes to tons of people seeing your listing as well. So that some people don't know, like the sisters that I met yesterday, one of them is a little more savvy. The other one was like, what is that? And then the sister goes, oh, it's everybody's doing that. And she was telling her, I go, yeah, your listing will be shared amongst social media as well. So share everything we do, even if it's minimal. We think it's minimal because it's our everyday, we do it. Enrique's telling us post, and you guys need to post, and it becomes more like not the new thing. But remember, for our clients, it's new. They don't know. They don't know what we do. They don't know all the behind the scenes.
That's a great point you bring up, right? Because there's something, right? even though it's a value, but if you don't know how to articulate the value and explain why it's a value, then it's not that valuable, right? A lot of teams say, oh yeah, we're going to door knock, we're going to do this, but they don't go into detail of how we door knock, what it means when we door knock, why that's important for you, right? So you always want to reference, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and this is why this is going to help you.
Yeah.
Because you guys could, two different agents could say that they door knock, but one of them explains it in a better way and it looks bigger and more valuable. And then now they want to go with that agent, right? And so that's being able to articulate the value, right? And not just kind of run through it really quick. You're missing a lot of opportunity to score points with that prospective seller right there, right? And good job.
One last thing that I want to maybe chime in on is when we're offering our contractors, and at both places it happened, where they asked me, hey, Blanca, what if I have someone that does painting? I said, that's absolutely okay. I said, however, I am going to want you to introduce me to this person because I have standards of what I want your home to look like. And I just want to make sure they're on the same page. I said, my Hollister property, they didn't go with my contractor. They went with a family member, but I was very in tune with the family member. And I said, I need you to make sure you're patching up holes when they removed all the portraits and that it looks smooth and that it was a professional job. I said, so I'm still going to hold them to a standard that I want for your property. I said, but we could still coordinate it and do all that. And that's not a problem.
Yeah.
So, and in both places it happened because they said, hey, but we have someone. I said, absolutely. I'm still going to provide our bid because it's someone that we use, but we're open to working and still guiding and monitoring the work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And once again, that just further shows like the attention to detail. That shows the standard of care, the standard for like, hey, this is a standard for how I do business. You know, I'm going to make sure I'm double checking that. Right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. What else we got? Questions? Any other questions? Those of you guys going after listings right now, so good opportunity to ask them. Blanca, how do you handle when someone needs to drop their price? Because I know we've had some.
Oh, yeah.
Guys, let's talk about that.
Yeah, we did. So very important. And I think we're having to do this because we're in this quirky market and it's just taking more of our work and our input. You need to do the check-ins. So for example, if you have your listing and there hasn't been activity, even though it's bad news, you have to deliver it. And I had to do that with my condo in South San Jose. The activity was just zero almost. And I said, hey, unfortunately, there were no visits. The activity hasn't been as busy or what we expected. We may have to do an adjustment pretty soon. So I was already planting the seed. Following week, same thing. I probably had a few calls, but I would call them. Any activity that I would get, I would call them and give them an update, whether it was good or bad. So then when I did position the, hey, we need to do a price drop. We need to do a price drop to see if we can generate some movement, some activity, and see how that goes. So I feel that by me doing the check-ins weekly, even if there was bad news, when it came to the price reduction, they were ready. They were ready to do the price reduction. And then I remind them, you know, reasons why a home doesn't sell is condition or pricing. And in this case, the market. We're going through a quick market shift and we just got to adjust. But I don't say we got a price drop, or I don't really want to emphasize on that because you feel like it's in their mind. It's like I'm lowering my price. I always say we have to adjust and see what activity we can generate by this adjustment.
Yeah.
And when I said that to my client, he's like, okay, Blanca, we didn't adjust to the suggested price that I wanted him to adjust. I wanted it a little lower, but with the adjustment, we got an offer, a cash offer. So it worked.
Yeah, almost immediately you got an offer, right? Right after you adjusted it.
Yeah, we got a cash offer. And then it came to like, oh, I wanted a little bit more. Let's crunch the numbers. What if you hold on to it a little more and be prepared to also elaborate on that? What is your mortgage payment? I know that this is something you want to move on to. And then the scenario came up, what if I just rent it? Do you really want to rent this place? It's a very nice, and the HOA was high. Are you going to break even? Or are you still going to put money out of pocket? So touching all the points, and then it was like, you know what, Blanca, you're right. I just need to move on and accept it. Let's just get it in contract.
Yeah, but in that scenario, like in no way were you making them right or wrong. You were just
No.
like, you were just bringing up all the points that they need to think about, right? You're playing devil's advocate, so to say.
Yeah.
Right? Hey, well, let's look at that. If you rent it, let's go ahead and let's crunch those numbers, right? This is what it would look like.
Yeah.
Right?
And then another one was like, how long are you going to need to hold on to it for the numbers to make sense for you? How long is it going to take for the market to recoup? That's an unknown. We don't know. So it may be 3 years, it may be 5 years. Who knows? That's another factor you have to think about, Mr. Seller.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So it was I feel that if as their agent you're doing the check-ins weekly or any activity you get, or if there's no more downloads or there's no more calls, even though it's a tough conversation, you need to have it.
Yeah.
You need to say, hey guys, it's been very slow this week. There's been no calls, there's been no visits, or there's been just one inquiry, or whatever it is. You need to do your check-ins, because if you ghost them and they don't have updates, and then now you want to talk about an adjustment, it's not going to resonate well.
Yeah, I just experienced that. I just got in contract last night on my listing.
Right. Congrats.
Thank you. Let's go back in the game. But I had to do that as well because she got less than what she wanted. And she even said, well, maybe I'll just rent it. She was kind of, she's an investor. She bought the property. It was a flip. She thought she was going to get, a certain price. The market's not there. She had an offer that was higher that fell through. So in her mind already, like that's where the price should have been. And then that fell through. She canceled with the other agent. Now I listed it and now I priced it a little lower of where I thought it should be. And now the offer we got was lower. So we priced it at 125. We got an offer at 1175.
Wow, that's good.
No, that's 75,000 less than the asking price.
I'm sorry. I heard you wrong.
We priced at 1.25.
Oh.
The offer came in at 1175. Right? So, and then the offer that she was in contract with before was like close to 1.3. Right? So, but it fell through, right?
Yeah.
It didn't go through. So in her mind, she's already thinking like 1.3 is, is what's possible.
Yeah.
And so I had to kind of navigate through that conversation with her, like, hey, look, because at first she was offended with the offer, 1175. I go, look, I know it's lower than what you want. I go, but look, this is when negotiations start right now.
Yeah.
Right. If we have an offer, I know they like the property. I go, they're probably just trying to test you and see how low you're willing to go. I go, so let's not be offended. Let's just go ahead and follow the process and let's go ahead and counter them. Right. And then what I also did is I also prepped her that there's going to probably be at least 2 counters. I said, so we can counter them right now. I go, but in my experience, we're going to counter. They're probably going to counter back. And then we're going to probably have to counter back at something. So I already want to prepare you that this may be a 2-step counter process in order for us to find the sweet spot where we all can agree upon. Right.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And so we even had to think that like, hey, if I count, because right away she only wanted to come down like $5,000. And I was like, if we come down $5,000, like there's 75 grand less, like that gap is too big. Right.
Yeah.
And I said, why don't we come down a little bit less? Right. And so I countered she came down like 15 grand less or something.
Mm-hmm.
I go, because when we come down this, they're probably going to come over here and then we're going to try to meet somewhere over here. Right. So, but I had to also like just remind her, just like you said, like, yeah, what are your options? Right. If we can't make this work, she goes, well, maybe I'll just keep it. I'll rent it. And I go, hey, let's take a look at what that would look like. I go, right now, what's your mortgage payment? Right. And she goes, well, I'll probably refinance it because I have a hard money loan. I go, okay, so let me run the numbers. So I run the numbers. Hey, if you refinance it, it's an investment property. You're probably going to get like a 7% interest rate. I go, your payment is still going to be $6,000 a month. I go, what can we rent this thing for? I go, you're going to be negative probably at least $1,000 a month. I go, or we agree upon a price, you get your money back, and now you can move on to your next deal. Now you're not having to just hold on to it. I go, so you got to weigh those two things out. So long story short, it went back and forth. They came up to 1,210, and then we countered at 1,227. We came down a little bit more, and we agreed upon 1,227. So that's the way it goes down sometimes, guys, is you have to play out also. I think what the point is, you also got to think about like 2 steps ahead. And that's what I told my client. We got to think 2 steps ahead. We're going to counter, they're going to counter back.
Yep.
So I already want you to prepare for that. Yeah, have you had a question?
This was actually almost exact to the T with the Sunnyvale deal. Remember, but the one you did with the deal with me and you worked on?
Yeah.
The negotiation was exactly, I mean, ballpark exactly the same. I mean, our buyer lowballed a little bit, but at that time we were representing the buyer. So you helped kind of talk through like, I remember when you said that, but now you represent the seller. So it's very valuable to see how you know, earlier you're mentioning that you're just being devil's advocate. You're pointing out the pros and the cons, but you're not deciding for the client, right? So seeing you kind of represent both sides ethically makes it very, it's a good feeling. It's because you're doing both clients good service, and it's not like you're representing either side and you're kind of siphoning money or anything like that, right? A good agent helps make money on both sides. And I mean, seeing you represent both transactions like that and both negotiations like that is really kind of exemplifies it a little bit more.
Cool, bro. Thanks. Yeah, same strategy, right? Because they were the buyer this time, and they were lowballing. And so I had to tell them, hey, look, they're going to counter us, and then we're probably going to counter, and then they're probably going to counter, right? I go, so we already got to think a couple steps ahead, right? I don't want you thinking, hey, we're just going to lowball and they're going to accept our offer. I go, that doesn't usually happen that way. So I feel like by us saying that up front, we kind of already got that out of the client's mind. Like, it's going to go exactly like this, right? So like you said, a good agent is going to help them see around the corner, like what might happen next. And then you obviously got to weigh everything out and play devil's advocate, right? All right, cool. We're coming up on time, guys. So really quick, there's only a few of us here. What was your biggest takeaway from today that you can maybe apply in your process or strategy? Let's go around the room real quick. Feel free to unmute yourself.
Start using those email templates.
Yeah, for sure. Email, text version, however you got to do it, right? But send them something, right? That already pre-sells who you are and why they should work with you. Yep. What else?
I feel like just like back to the basics, follow the process. Just because of it doesn't work 1-2 times, it doesn't mean that it doesn't work. It will work. You have to keep just following the process.
Yeah.
I like that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Maybe give them enough value so that they are eager to meet you, but at the same time, don't open the can.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
To me, it's like realistic, setting up the realistic benchmark, whether you're on the buyer side or listing side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Already setting the benchmarks of what's going to happen next, right? What else? Mark, Dev.
I was going to say kind of like what Amaya said was making sure when you're responding to clients, don't give them too much information, but give them enough to where you're intriguing them to want to book an appointment with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We don't want to disqualify ourselves before we even have a chance to meet with them. Right.
Yeah.
Great point. Great point. Dev.
Yeah, I would say the biggest is just follow up regardless. Good news, bad news, just stay in touch. It's small but good advice.
Yeah. You can never go wrong with over communicating.
Yes.
Right. The only way you can go wrong is under communicating. No one ever said, man, you're following up, you're giving me too much info, right? Like no one ever said that. I have never had a client. It's always like, hey, I didn't hear from you, right? That's the only time they complain. They never complain if you were overly detailed and gave them too much information, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, make it digestible for them too. That's important, right?
Yeah.
Also understand your client. Like you don't want to get too complicated when the client may not understand it. So you also got to deliver it in a way that they understand.
Yeah.
How about for you, Blanca? What's something that stood out? I know we talked a lot about your process, but maybe what's a reminder to yourself that maybe you got from this?
Just continue using the templates, because prior, I was not, or I was not being so in tune with the system. And now that I'm also just trying to really do everything through FUB, is just using it to my advantage, and it works.
Yep.
Yeah. Because the auto responses also really play a factor, like the confirmation the day of. I didn't do that. The system did. So I emailed them. I messaged a day before, but then they got another friendly reminder the day of. So yeah.
All those things stack, right? And that's, to me, I mean, that's maybe my reminder
Yeah.
from this, is that all these little things, like, they're all great things, but none of them are powerful just by themselves, right? It's when you stack them all together, when you're doing all these little things that we said, and that just becomes part of your process, that becomes powerful, and that gives you a really, really good foundation. And that's what leads to the conversion of turning these deals into contracts and stuff like that, right? These clients into contracts. So
Yeah.
remember, you can't just say, oh, I like that one, I'm only going to do that one, right?
No.
And forget about like all the other things that Blanca mentioned, even the little small nuances that made her that successful, right? So that's my biggest reminder, I think, for myself and for everybody, is it takes all of that, not just one, right? If you really want to have high level success. Cool. With that, we will wrap this up. Guys, was this valuable for you guys? You guys get some nuggets? Okay, so make sure you spread the word. Tier 2 and Tier 3, be here next Thursday, right? We're going to keep running these. I really want to continue to focus on these higher level conversations with this group that's going to move your business forward. If you're in this group, remember, you're in this group for a reason, because you guys are doing stuff. You guys are getting deals in contract. Now it's how do we get you to the next level, whatever that level is going to be, right? So let's give a round of applause for everybody, guys. Good stuff today. Thank you. Thank you. Let me know if you need anything.